Hi everyone, welcome to our very first Swish exclusive AME session, and we are kicking things off in style with none other than the remarkable Dr. Loretta Chen of Smobler Studios. We couldn't be more excited to have her as our very first guest speaker. Thank you so much. So Dr. Loretta is actually a creative powerhouse who wears many hats. With her impressive professional background as a creative director, best-selling author, and esteemed professor, she's all set to take the world by storm. So she's currently teaching leadership, branding, and theater at some of the most prestigious universities, such as University of Hawaii, Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University, and Carnegie Mellon. I pronounced it right? All right, and Loretta's passion for innovation and creativity actually led her to co-found Smobler Studios, a leading virtual architecture firm that's blazing trails in the sandbox, and it's actually at the forefront of the creator economy and also the ever-evolving metaverse. So, naturally, Loretta, with her infectious energy and passion for life, she lives by the mantra of people, purpose, possibilities, and with over 24 years of diverse experience under her belt, Loretta is actually on a mission to inspire the next generation of leaders. So leaders, entrepreneurs, change makers in the metaverse and beyond. So she seeks to unlock the full potential of individuals, helping them develop the skills and also knowledge they need to make a positive impact on the world, just like herself. So with Loretta by her side, the possibilities are definitely endless. So welcome, Dr. Loretta. Thank you so much for joining us today. So to kick off our interview, can you share a little bit about your journey in becoming an acclaimed creative director and professor?
Oh, thank you so much, Sophie. I thought we are going to jump right into the metaverse already. You're taking me way back. So first off, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for that introduction. You almost always feel like a little bit like an avatar when someone is like saying all these things about you. Like, is that really me? It's like, is that what I'm hearing? But thank you for that. So my journey as a creative director and professor really started with, as a child. I mean, I grew up in a media family. I think many of you in Singapore probably know my brother's Chen and his wife is Yun. So I think I grew up already being surrounded by the arts and culture and music and theater. So I think it was already a very atypical household. A typical Singaporean family would probably say, go be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. But in my family, again, kudos to my dad and mom. They were so progressive. They're kind of pushing 90 each, but they've always just told us to, believe in yourself, do what you love. And all three of us, Edmund, Eric, and me, we are the trailblazers in our own way. We're all entrepreneurs, and we've crafted really different paths compared to our peers. So with that said, because of my familial influence, I embarked upon a journey of the arts and culture. But I also knew that deep down, that while I enjoyed acting and performing, I also had this sense of, maybe because I'm Xiao Mei Mei at home, the youngest, I had this great sense for wanting to take care of people. And one way to take care of people, aside from mentoring them, guiding them, is also to provide work opportunities, job opportunities. So, the world of education, entrepreneurship, and the arts worked very well for me, because I feel that education is a key pillar to get us all to be aware, to gain an education, to gain upward social mobility. I think none of us will disagree on the importance of education. But I also believe that, in order to have a robust economy, we don't just need to have the engineers and doctors, we also need to have critical thinkers, we need to have artists, we need to have creators, designers who shape the world. And back then, when I was growing up, a lot of the narrative was very much on nation building, so it's on STEM subjects. But I knew deep down that the STEM and the arts cannot be separated. And, we have visionaries like Steve Jobs, right, during his time, that said that, if I didn't drop out of Apple, I wouldn't have ventured into calligraphy school, that then got me on the path of really merging science and design, but that sort of thinking was not pervasive then, but thankfully I was already in that space. So I already became a front runner or a pioneer, trying to craft design, arts, culture, and push it on the forefront. And then, of course, because of the fact that I am such an advocate, I feel that I'm very blessed to have a platform to go to speak, to change people's minds. So I really began to craft this world where I took my arts, culture, media, theater, all my arts platforms, use that, turn it into an educational engagement tool, but also then begin to understand what entrepreneurship is, because fundamentally, you also need to have a robust business if you want to scale and take care of your community. So I think I began to find my voice, crafting these three roles together. So it is a function of purpose, passion, possibilities, and it's also a very intentional work towards wanting to found something that is scalable so that I could bring more and more people into the community. And so today, this has led me to found Smobler, because we now have a platform that can actually support creators and also allow them to make a living. So it's a conflation of all of that.
That's fascinating. But just one quick question, what kind of inspired you to actually combine these few elements into, what it is today?
Yeah, specifically for Smobler, I will say, it really started with my bleeding heart or my sense of altruism. I was already living in Hawaii in 2020. It was in the middle of the pandemic, where, just to set the stage, you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This was where there was no vaccines. It was a moment where every day you turn on the news, you see bodies being, pulled out of flats in New York, and you see them using the refrigerator trucks to store the deceased that have passed away from COVID. That was the climate that I was in, and it was then that I received a call from my now co-founder, Ruel, who used to work with me. He's a trained architect and a gamer. So he called me because he was down to $250. He has an autistic son, and he said, "Loretta, can you help me out? Because he's lost his job and he can't see the light at the end of the tunnel." So I did embark on giving him a couple of projects, but we felt that was not sustainable. During that time, he had discovered this open metaverse platform called the Sandbox. And I started looking into the fundamentals of the Sandbox and realized that it had all these things that I relished and cherished. So it was about creating a robust creator economy. They had initiatives like a game maker fund to allow creators to come on board. They would fund creators to create experiences in the Sandbox. They also had creator tools to empower people to be able to come onto the Sandbox to build with no code. And it also had an open marketplace. So these were all the things that I felt were all the ingredients of what we now call an open metaverse. And so that's also why we started to invest more time and energy into the space. So when we first started, we were one of the 30 earliest creators to be on the Game Makers Fund. And I think as luck would have it, I think our experiences caught the attention of brands, IPs, and communities, and so we started building, and I think the rest is history. But fundamentally, what the open metaverse or the Sandbox open metaverse had was that it was all these things that I wanted, right? Creator tools, an ability to monetize, because fundamentally that's the only way it's sustainable. Because as we all know, a lot of creators drop out, and I have seen firsthand so many of friends who are so talented. They're talented musicians, they're talented actors, but they all drop out and they end up being, waiters or taking on other jobs because their creativity is not being able to. They can't monetize on their creativity. So there was that element. And then the third thing was its ability for us to own data. And again, for artists, it's really important because for decades, artists and creators often always need to have a middleman to sell their work, right? So if you're an artist, you couldn't just go out there and sell your art. I mean, not many are as successful. Many had to go through a middleman, whether it's a gallery or a publisher. And so with the advent of the blockchain and of course now the open metaverse, it bypasses that. It allows creators to reach their customers and their fans directly. So I saw all of these as opportunities that I really wanted to enable and push on. Yeah.
It's definitely life-changing. The whole space actually allows creators to be able to to expand, and also, I mean, they are well deserving of, of the rewards. It just doesn't end there, one time end there kind of thing. It's just it brings them constant royalties, right? And
correct.
Yeah,
correct.
and it's
amazing. And that is definitely the world we're trying to create. Absolutely. I mean, we're in very early stages, but that is definitely the intention, and you're absolutely right. Yes.
And it's fair, definitely. And with such a diverse background in theatre and brand direction, right? How do you think your experiences actually have contributed to your unique perspective and also teaching style?
I'm so glad you're asking all these questions, Sophie, because no, really, I really thank you for going back into my past and asking these questions, because these are the things that shape me and what I bring to the metaverse. Because I always say I'm not a technologist, so I can't come in here to talk about blockchain, all the different protocols and all the layers. So I'm not that person. I'm that person that really fundamentally am an artist and an educator at heart. And I think what I bring to the table is an ability to really humanize the metaverse. That is our USP. Fundamentally, even though the metaverse is about creating, more immersion, allowing us to own our data, our identities, and eventually becoming more and more interoperable, it is still about bringing communities together. So I think fundamentally my skill set is being able to tease out the human stories. What is it that our brands want? What is it that our IPs want? What is it that communities want? And be able to take them into the metaverse. That's one. The other, I will say, is my ability to create or visualize or sell the vision and create something from nothing. And if you think about the ultimate way or the ultimate form of creating something out of nothing is the theatre. Why? Because this is a vision in your head. You then need to amass people to believe in your vision. You need to bring in diverse artists, from the architects, the set designers, the costume designers, the hairstylists, the actors, the musicians. You bring them all together to believe in this vision. And guess what? This vision doesn't even last for posterity, unlike film, because with film you record it and it's there. In theatre, it's the ultimate act of selfless love. Obviously, I'm completely biased. It's the ultimate act of selfless love because you put all your resources, bring everybody together, rehearse for 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, even sometimes, and you stage your production that lasts anywhere between 1 night to 3 days to 3 months to 6 months. So that ability to bring people together, that ability to have everyone unite in a vision and to tease out all their different strengths and abilities, and the ability to have everyone bring their diverse abilities to unanimously work towards a vision is something that I think I enjoy and do best. And the other is really listening skills, being always able to empathize. It comes from being an actor, as a director. I mean, what do actors do? You put yourself in the shoes of another character, even if it's a role that I've never played. I need to be able to put my head into maybe the sociopath. I need to be able to put my head into maybe this World War II victim. You need to be able to always put yourself and see from various perspectives. These are, I think, the strengths that I can bring to the table. And finally, as a woman leader, there's a saying that says you don't know what it's like to be included until you know what it's like to be excluded. As an Asian woman leader, I know what it's like to see us sitting outside the circle, and I demanded a seat in the inner circle on the table. Is it easy? No, it's absolutely not. But I think it is a process of, sharpening your tools, having very thick skin, being able to take failure. Even I've had men literally point in my face and talk to me like this. I don't think they'll talk to a guy like this, but I've literally had men, point and talk to me. And I'm a fairly tall girl, as you know, but still, you need to break these gender barriers. You need to break these social stigmas and be able to get a seat at the table. So I think it's a combination of all of these things that I now bring as a 47-year-old. I feel like a geriatric mom.
You don't look like
coming.
it.
Thank you. Coming to the metaverse space, because there's so many young people that are so talented and so incredibly smart that I'm learning from. But I think what I can bring to them is, I suppose, my sense of wisdom, from the school of hard knocks that I definitely can share with anyone that comes my way.
Amazing, so inspiring. And I think also, like, your experience comes with age and like the years of things you've been through, like, the ups and downs. I think that makes a lot of difference also. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that changes the way I run my business as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is super inspirational indeed. And also, like, going back to like the whole metaverse topic, right? Virtual architecture is actually a very intriguing concept. Can you actually briefly explain how it works and the challenges and opportunities that come with designing for a virtual world?
Great question. Today, I think the pandemic has exacerbated all of us leading our lives more and more digitally. It was always already there. Gamers have already been in space for the last 4 decades, pushing the boundaries of representation and creating a more and more fun and immersive world. So that is why Metaverse builders, creators borrow a lot from gamers, because gamers for eons have always been trying to push the boundaries of representation, make it more fun, more immersive. And so today, with the advent of blockchain technology, with the ability to actually own some of these assets, comes a desire to own a virtual architecture. Because if you think about the real world, how many of us can actually own a plot of land or even own our own assets? I mean, just case in point, in Singapore, I now live in Hawaii, but I now learned that, an HDB can go as high as 700,000 to $1 million. I know that increasingly our younger generations are going to be priced out and may not be able to own assets. Some of us who may be lucky, we have parents who, have a home for us to inherit. But, many younger Singaporeans, I mean, speaking in our context, may not have that possibility. Real estate is going to be priced out. And if increasingly we are leading our lives digitally, there really is this real ability for us to own digital assets. If more and more of us are going to be shifting our social lives into that space. So just as we build out our real world, you begin to see not just corporations and architects, but also people wanting to make their dream homes in the virtual world. Of course, some may already have real world assets and they want a digital twin, but for some, the ability to own a digital asset is just as real as owning that real world asset. So given that sense of belonging, that sense of ownership can translate into wanting to zeng, right? It's just like I know in Singapore people say, well, zeng their car. You want to zeng your digital architecture. So this is becoming a real thing. We begin to see people invest more and more time, energy into really glamping up their digital assets. So that is one, real world opportunities. Two, we are also beginning to see corporates, property companies also coming in to see that opportunity. And in fact, we've also had property companies come to us and say, can we build out digital twins for their real world counterparts? And on the other hand, you also see the extension of banks coming to the space, asking studios like us as well to create a bank environment. I mean, truth be told, I just jumped off a call literally minutes ago, speaking of a bank on creating their virtual banking arena. And one of the things about virtual architecture is that while we can create a digital twin, that is definitely possible, I often always encourage my clients to take chances to be more fantastic, because try to push the boundaries of creativity, push the boundaries of gravity. You can invert the norms of gravity and architectural standards and be able to create something fantastic, right? I think the digital space allows you to become more creative, allows you to think beyond regulatory permits, because in order to build something, you need to have permits, regulations, there are real world inhibitions, right? But you could use technically any sort of architectural tool. You could technically use any kind of building material that you want, right? In real world. So for example, I give you a very good example. We built out a concert venue, and what we're able to do is to build a subterranean aquarium and then build the building on top of it. I mean, in real world, that would be quite difficult to do, because it'd be almost impossible or very, very cost prohibitive to have an aquarium at the base level and then have the building on top of it. But you can explore all this. And I think not only does it push boundaries of creativity, it also allows for the younger generation to really immerse themselves and be able to not just have the sense of make-believe, but kind of see it happening in the real world. I think it really is a really fun space. And so I encourage everyone to actually try and come on board the open metaverse with us and create these digital architectures. It's super fun.
Yeah, it's like literally like you can just go crazy with your ideas and manifesting it, right?
Yeah, like creating your dream home, right? I mean, how many times we say we want to create our dream home? Then in reality, your dream home is limited by a $100,000 budget. Not to say 100,000 you cannot do a lot, but I mean, literally in the metaverse, you can create your dream home.
Like literally.
Yeah,
and that's really amazing. Like you can just live your dreams and just have it happen.
Exactly.
Nice.
Agree.
And your personal tagline, people, purpose, possibilities, right, truly reflects your passion for, educating and accelerating the next generation of leaders. How do you envision the role of education and mentorship in shaping the future of this metaverse?
Great question. I think, Sophie, you're asking all these questions that speak so close to my heart. Okay, on a very basic level, Smobler has strategic trust. Like at heart of Smobler, we have our Metaverse for Good initiative where we want to partner brands that want to do good. Our Smobler ideas are inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, leadership, and sustainability. So even though we are a small studio, we are already partnered with brands like Aventis. Together, we've established a $1 billion scholarship fund where Aventis can recruit students from ASEAN and offer them scholarships to read their masters, etc. And of course, there would be metaverse education as well. So that's one educational initiative that we have. On our own, we've also launched Herstory. Herstory is a project we launched over International Women's Day, where we partner inspiring girls and we go into schools in Singapore around and we teach girls how to voxel. So by so doing, the girls begin to understand digital asset creation. And by understanding digital asset creation, we get them to understand digital ownership, and hopefully then they understand, if we put them on the path towards, financial literacy and hopefully entrepreneurship. So, I joke about it and say, don't wait for your boyfriend to buy you an MS bag. You can create your own digital, asset MS bag and learn how to monetize on that. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. I mean, it's a small step to getting people to understand asset creation, asset ownership, economic independence. So that is another trust that we have. And of course, for me as a person, I do a lot of these talks. I mean, as you well know, they don't pay the bills, but I evangelize, I proselytize, I educate, I go around talking and sharing, because I think that consciousness raising awareness is key. We're in such early stages of the metaverse, so we really need good people, in the space to constantly be talking about the real world benefits of the metaverse, not just about creating, rug pull projects and speculative projects, because there's so much bad press in the world, right? I don't need to go through it. There's so much bad press. So I really take it upon myself to go out there and do that. So that is one. And the other is also to, on a larger scale, engage educational institutions to say we need to have more of these classes. I remember getting into conversations with Skills Future, getting conversations with IMDA to say we need to not just support in terms of having more and more of these courses, because we need educated individuals to be able to build up these digital metaverses. We need to have educated individuals who know how to run events in the metaverse. I mean, currently we're all just like, pulling people together and say, oh, you got interested? Okay, okay, let's figure this out. But I think over time, for the market or the industry to become more sophisticated, we also need training and learning. So I'm constantly engaging as well with the academic institutions as well as the stakeholders. And on an even more macro scale, if I can share, I'm also engaged in conversations with the United Nations and COP20 or the COP28 committee to see how we can create their metaverse platforms as well, so that, because they have a large community, the more folks are able to see real world use case scenarios of the metaverse, the better for all of us. I don't think that the metaverse is going to, be developed overnight. It really is going to, be a gradual evolution, and then suddenly we're there, just like the internet and telco. So I think it's really important to be building these up with partners and in stages. And education is key, absolutely.
Nice. And also, I just would like to add also, being a female leader, not just any female leader, but in the tech space, I think it's really important also. And plus, you actually literally change the lives of these girls, breaking the stereotype of female and tech, it usually doesn't go together, right? But at least you're actually helping them to, to overcome that, that fear of the intimidating feeling of being in a space. So I think
exactly.
it's really, really good that you're actually helping these girls out with this, breaking the stereotype. It's amazing.
Thank you. I think so too. So I really thank my team. And I think Golden Equator and is also supporting Pinnacle, is also a huge supporter. So thank you for that as well. We appreciate that.
Thank you. And the metaverse is an ever evolving landscape with countless of possibilities, right? In your opinion, what do you think are some key trends or developments we should actually watch out for in the coming years?
I think increasingly you're going to see more and more demand for use case scenarios. I think during the bull market, what we saw was a lot of speculative projects, a lot of art projects. And of course, usually, artists, musicians, fashion is always the first to jump on board. But I think increasingly you're going to see a higher and higher demand for real world use case scenarios like how do I do my banking? Or, how do I bring my communities into the space? Or we're even now engaging with mass media platforms to say, how do we integrate mass media platforms together with the blockchain metaverse world? We are increasingly seeing a greater demand for real world socialization, real world work prospects come into the metaverse. So there is more and more of this demand. Like I said, in the early days, people were still trying out. So a lot of it were like creating like generative art projects. So now a lot of the discussions we're having with brands have really become into how do we look into employee engagement? How do we look into wellness? How do we create training academies? How do we do our banking? So a lot of these how might we questions that take real world economic activity or real world social activity into the metaverse. So that's definitely something I see. And also on the, the socialization front, I think we'll also see, folks wanting to experiment more and more with their own identities. For me, personally, because I'm very colorful, as you know, in real life, I mean, I do have like that actor persona, so I can walk into the space and, dressed in different variety of outfits. But the truth is, in one of the talks that I gave to, I think recently to radio, that there's a statistic that says that, the world is roughly made up of introverts and extroverts, and it's about 49-51%. And in our current real world environment, IRL, for those who thrive and succeed, you tend to have to be an extrovert or at least be very social, like I am. Actually, at heart, I'm quite introverted and ambivert. That's why I can write books and go and live in the Himalayas and Hawaii by myself. But because I can put on that extroverted persona, I can go into any party, talk to anybody and have fun. However, there's a huge population that process information in the world differently. A lot of these introverts sought solace in the gaming world, which gave them, what we call today the geeks or the nerds. But hey, fast forward, the geeks and the nerds today are running the world, right? Exactly. So basically, the metaverse that we are building actually enables those that are a little bit that are more introverted or who experience the world differently to now finally have a viable social medium that is not just corporeal, right? Because back in the day, like for me, social activity means, I go party at Zoom, right? Or must go and meet my friends and go and, go high tea. But this generation, their way of socializing is really through digital. And the bonds that they make through that digital activity is not any less real than the bonds that they make by meeting that person. So we cannot discount that fact. Because, while I'm a Gen Xer and I'm born in that era where going to meet my friend for high tea and going to Zoom is my way of socializing, I cannot discount the fact that for the younger generation, the communities they build in that space is very, very real. I mean, that is also why, sadly, you see, suicides happen with young children because the comments that are said in the virtual world is really impactful. So conversely, if we flip that, if we can construct worlds that are empowering, that create close, tight social bonds that are uplifting, imagine what we can do, right? If you look into the discussion today we have with TikTok in Section 230, is because we're still trying to figure out the impact of TikTok on young people. We do know there's an impact, but if collectively we can create a metaverse for good and create these virtual spaces that are safe, engaging, fun, and yet being able to educate them and raise a generation of critical, young, involved individuals, I will say we would have really succeeded in what we're doing.
Exactly. And I agree, like, I myself, I'm an ambivert, like, maybe I don't have the actress persona, but I know like deep inside, I seek my me time, which is actually quite rare. But if needed
I'm not gonna tell Shirley, she's working you too hard. No, of course.
No, I enjoy my work, really. I really enjoy my work. And plus I'm a mother of one. So I think that kind of like takes up a bit of my time, but I've got no complaints about that. But I really agree, like, being able to like connect with people and not just limited to just distance, right? It's beyond that. You can actually reach out to people like from overseas. For example, like, you're in Hawaii and we are able to, have this friendship. And it's really amazing, right? It's not just limited to just physical kind of like, gatherings and stuff. So I really agree, this is really, really like, so different from back in 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah, and I think it really helps a lot, especially with this younger generation. It's really, really impactful and it's really important for them. And it's really still socializing, right? But in different
Yes.
contexts. Yeah.
And it is very, very real, right? Like I said,
It
just
is.
because we don't understand it, or like parents are like, why are you always on your phone? When we were growing up, why are you always on your phone?
Yeah,
And today it's because that is their friends are there. It's like
exactly.
them, it's like me when I go to the playground, I mean their friends are there. That is why they're going to be growing up in this. And like I said, the pandemic has really exacerbated this, right? In fact, I mean, I don't have children of my own, but I was talking to Odile Benjamin, who is a co-founder of FJ Benjamin. She said, yeah, I mean, her kids would rather stay home and be on their game set then go out and meet their friends because that connection is real. So we can't discount that. So that's also why brands, IPs, communities, corporates cannot discount that anymore. Because fundamentally, if your consumers are there, you have to be there. If you're building relationships digitally, then brands, IPs, and communities want to be there as well. So
Exactly.
those worlds are very, very real. Yeah.
It is so different from back then. I would love to actually continue on. This is an amazing conversation, and you're just such a bright person, a very colorful person, and it's always nice to talk to you. But I've got one question though, before we actually head off, what advice would you actually give to aspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, and also change makers looking to make an impact within the metaverse and beyond?
I always say the same advice, but I think it starts from having self-awareness. Be very aware of yourself, in order to want to go out there and make an impact. Having a sense of purpose, a sense of passion and all that is obviously crucial. But you know what is even more key than that is having a very grounded sense of self. Why do I say that? Because if you go out into the world and you're trying to make change and you don't have a grounded sense of self, you don't have a grounded sense of like your community, what you're really working for, it is very easy to be sidetracked, and it's very easy for other people to beat you down, because when you're going out there to create change, recognize that you are going to have naysayers. For every yes that you get, you're going to get 100 no's. So if you don't have that self-confidence, that sense of grounding, that self-awareness, these no's can be very disempowering and you may feel very beaten up and it may impact your self-esteem. So I will say for any one of us that wants to go out there to be a change maker, first spend a lot of time seeking self-awareness, seeking self-knowledge, growing a good infrastructure, growing a great community, growing a great support. And remember, it doesn't just have to be your blood family. I'm very thankful that I have a family that's very supportive. I always tell my underserved students, even my incarcerated students, that your ecosystem and your support system can be friends and people that you choose, which can sometimes be even more powerful than your blood family. Because we hear, some blood families just really don't get along at all, right? They can be your biggest detractors.
Yeah.
So, but having that social support is very important because when you go out to make change, people will question you a lot. Especially if you want to go out and be an entrepreneur, if you're seeking funding, everyone's going to question you what you're doing. You need to be very clear. But while you are very clear, you must also be open to feedback, open to critical discourse, and be open to the fact that sometimes people may downrightly say things which are not very nice. And you need to be able to filter that out. Okay, this was very personal and this is constructive. Goes back to sense of self, sense of grounding. Be firm, but also be open. So it's really about being able to be comfortable with discomfort, honing the ability to thrive in contradiction. So, for anyone that aspires to be out there, I say, please go out there and do that. But, first know yourself, form the affiliation, form that framework, go out with thick skin, be open, and most importantly, really have fun, enjoy the journey, because really we're only here for a very, very short amount of time. We don't live forever. In your 20s, you may think you live forever, but you really don't. And it's not to be morbid. So once you be like, for me now, I'm 47, I always tell myself, maybe I have like 10 great years or 15 great years. What do I want to achieve in this amount of time? So kind of that really guides me into my North Star. It also doesn't allow me to waste time on things or fights that really don't take me anywhere. So I think all of these things must be aligned. And I think you would, go out there and change the world. Yeah.
This is truly priceless indeed, your advice. And these days it's people are just sometimes blinded by the fame, the
Yeah.
lifestyle and
The
everything.
money, the greed.
The money, exactly. So these are really, really it's something to look back again and try to find back our ground, like the reason why, right? Our whys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also
Exactly.
have faith in yourself, be positive. I think those are really, really important advice indeed.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
really, thank you so much, Dr. Chen. Really, this is really, really inspiring. And I really hope that this session will change lives as usual. Like, just keep doing what you do, just inspire people, change lives and everything else. And I look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully before you leave for Hawaii, which is very soon, right?
Yes, I'll be back in Hawaii on the 14th, and then I'll start going on the road again because I'm starting my Series A, so I'll be on the road pretty much nonstop. But yeah, I'll go home and kiss my cat for 10
You
days,
miss a
and then I'll
cat.
be on the road, and then I'll be on the road again. Yeah.
Oh no, but enjoy Singapore, enjoy home and like your family, spend as much time with them before you head off again. Safe travels always.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I appreciate you and appreciate being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.